Hi everybody. We're going to go through a quick review of our UML diagrams and then using and interpreting that to give us some code at the end. So hopefully this will be really quick, and yeah, let's get started. Alright, what you see on the screen is a quick example of a UML diagram of an object for a stock, which will have a share price, a symbol, like the little short form for the stock on the stock market, and some method. So the first distinction we'll note is the difference between a public and a private item in our class. So notice that our variables that we declare are private, and then each of the methods in here are public. So we have a class called stock, and then here we have our variables, and they are both private. So in here we will find our methods, and then the first one here is our constructor, because you notice that the name of the method is the same name as the name of the class as well. It has no return type at all. But even though it doesn't return anything, it doesn't have a void either. It just has nothing here. So that's how you can tell it's a constructor, and then that's how you tell that when you interpret this diagram and try to turn it into code, you will have to code your own constructor and not use the default one and use the stuff they gave you. So within each method, we're going to have the indicator whether it is public or private. Then we're going to have the name of the method, and then inside the brackets will be the parameters with which you call this method, and then it's kind of in reverse order as what it would be when we call it. So when we call a method, you would have you would just have the name without the type. In your UML diagram, you would have the name of the parameter you're calling it with. So for stock, let's say, we're calling it with a variable called symbol, and that is of type string, so it'll be the type. And then if we have multiple, these will be separated by a comma as shown here. So this constructor here is being called with a string called symbol and a double variable called price. All right, so that's if you have multiple parameters. If you have no parameters, it will be left blank. And then after the brackets for the parameters, we will have the return type. So it'll be either string, or it can be any type of object, or any type of data type. That's the word I was missing. It could also be void here. Then obviously your constructor will not have any of that there, and we'll have this blank spot. And obviously the same, within this kind of form also shows up with your variables. You have the variable name and the variable type. All right, so it's not that big of a hurdle, but once you know it, you should be fine. But it's just needing to learn it for the first time. All right, let's go through a quick example of this. All right, so we have our example class called thing. I've chosen it to be in an object that is an integer array, but as you'll notice, we can have any kind of array here. It can be a string array, an array of strings, it can be an array of doubles, whatever. So typically, if the object is just a 2D array, we will have, I made a mistake. So we will have a private variable, an integer double array, let's call it thingy for now, and then we'll have a constructor that also has an integer double array. So when we go to use this and then try to make code out of it, you just make sure that you copy exactly what titles they gave you and what data types. Also for this one, this is like a quick review reminder. This one might not have any getters and setters, but the one distinction is that set is the one that returns nothing, but intakes a number and sets something equal inside the method. But the getter does not take in any parameters, but it does return something. You will also be asked to, you will also be given a few methods to write. So make sure you follow some logic to write those, and then interpret what's in that method using the information below. You're also going to be given a list of instructions that will also help you to program these. But when you build the method, we should be using the form that was given. All right, let's keep going. All right, so I've tried to shrink down the UML diagram, but it didn't really work. So we're just going to keep going anyway. So from our UML diagram, we're given the class thing. So we're going to start off with public class thing. And then we're asked to create one double array of whatever type it was. So for this example, it was integer. So we'll have a integer double array of class, or of name thingy, of type of name thingy. It'll be private because of the minus. And then we're gonna, for our constructor, we will have the same name as the name of the class with no return type, and it's common to every single instance of this, so there will be no static here either. So then it will be called with an integer double array. So if you're also given some driver code, make sure you look at the code. If the array is created in the driver code, we do not need to create an array inside of our constructor. So the method will be called with an array if you look at the driver code. So then you're going to intake that array as a parameter. And then inside your constructor, you're going to use the this keyword. So it'll be this instance of thingy will be equal to the thingy that you called the method with. So then it'll save that for the object. So you're probably not going to be given any getters and setters to do, but if you were, just remember, and then for later cases as well, or cases that we covered already, getters return something but takes no parameter, and then setter methods are void. They don't return anything, but they have something set equal to this into here. But you're probably not going to be asked to use these this time around, but make sure you still have that in your back pocket if need be. It's also going to look, the setter is also going to look like this inside. So in this example, the constructor already serves that purpose. So, oops. In this example, the constructor already serves that purpose. So it's not a big thing to worry about right now. So there are some methods, like problem-solving methods, that you'll be asked to do. So each method should take in, each method should take in the relevant parameters, and it does not need to intake the object, because each of the methods will be called with thingy dot method and then the parameters. So obviously it's called with respect to the thing, so we do not need to pass on the thing in the parameters. It would just be the one that's relevant. Let's say we're going to count how many numbers are over a certain threshold. You would probably intake the max number as the only parameter or something, for example. So turn off the laser pointer. All right, so also for other examples, you will need to count how many instances in the array violate or meet a certain criteria. So obviously you would intake the criteria, and then you're going to declare a variable to count those criteria, and then and then you're going to traverse, each method is probably, most of the methods are going to traverse the array with a nested for loop with an I and a j. and then inside you would use an if it to check if it violates the criteria or meets the criteria, and then you would probably, let's say if I had count as a variable equal to 0 above the 4, and then inside the nested for I would go have if something, or, and then if that was true, if this evaluated to be true, I would go count plus plus. And then at the end, you would return count of whatever criteria that would be. Most of these also have a thing where you have to print the grid. So let's see. So you would have your nested for loop. So you would traverse each row, and then within each row, so each row would be, oh, I'm missing a comparison here. So I is less than thingy.length. So this is like the number of rows will be thingy.length. So then I usually go from I equals 0 all the way to how long I is. And then I will go up by 1 after every row is complete. And then within each row, we will traverse within the row with starting at j equals 0. And I have another mistake there. So j is less than thingy of this row dot length, and then j goes up by 1. And then so there are two ways to print this out. Either you go, I'm not sure, someone told me this was right, but then it was only for numbers. But if you're being called with a things a different length, that's going to be a little bit misaligned. So the misaligned way would be system.out.print thingy at index I and index j, so at that position plus a space. So what this would give is if you have I and j is this, and then a space, and then if this one's this long, and then on the second row you have this, and then space, and then that, it's going to be a little bit misaligned. So to fix this, I didn't do this, I kind of forgot. So you would go system.out.printf, and then we would have, I'm pretty sure it will be %10s, and then comma thingy at index I and index j as your printf there. So then it would leave a space. It would print the name in 10 spots, but I'm not sure how well that would work because some names are obviously longer than 10 letters. So there are two ways to solve this part of the printing. However, to separate your lines, once this for loop is complete, so once all of this is done, you're going to add in a system.out.println here to make sure that once this row is complete, it actually goes to the second line. All right, so hopefully my writing isn't too terrible and that this helps you with your studies. Best of luck. Have a great day. Good luck with whatever you need to work on.